So this is a trial we're doing at multiple farms. So Dr. Dinik is kind of leading it, and we did one here at Kahumana, but then that season's over, and yeah, we weren't able to see it, but we're gonna continue, throughout the years. But then this is just summarizing one trial we did at another farm of how cover crops can be utilized, and maybe it's like the flip side of India's question where it can actually contribute to nutrients, particularly nitrogen. And if you're you as a farmer are adding fertilizers, either a synthetic form or a more organic form, how you can possibly cut that back through the use of your cover cropping system. So at the top of the cover crop of that handout, we talk about the methods of what the seeding rate was for that particular field, and then how long we let it grow to. So for that farmer, they let the sun hemp grow till right when that first flower appeared on like any plant, because that's when it's still kind of succulent, and then that's when they mowed it and then tilled it in. So these are just some data about what the fresh rate was from I didn't put the area on there, but it's from a 2 feet by 2 feet area, and what the percentage of dry matter and percentage of nitrogen were. And this is useful. It doesn't make sense now, but when we get to the calculator, it'll make much more sense. And based on our on the use of Kunhui's calculator, we're also able to figure out how many pounds of plant available nitrogen was released over so many days of it after being incorporated. So for this farmer, they grew their leafy green vegetable for about 21 days. So but then they tilled it in, I think it's maybe a week and a half before they planted. So it's about 40 days after incorporating that sun hemp. So that second bar shows what the fertilizer treatments were. So as an experiment, if you do want to try a trial at your farm, it doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be like this many treatments. It's whatever you want. But it's good to try different treatments that work for you to see what is feasible and what you may want to change to. So for this one, the farmer practice was the 100% rate of what they normally would spread by hand as a ammonium sulfate fertilizer. So it is a synthetic fertilizer. It's a 2100. For them, it works well because of their high pH soil. So when you do make a trial, you can split the farm up into sections. So for this farm, you can, when we do experimental treatments, we try to make it as randomized as possible and have triplicates here and there, so you can get so you don't all have one treatment on this side of the field and another treatment on that side, because just in case something's happening on that side and not affecting this side, you might get untruthful data. So it's good to see if you can spread it amongst the field in some way or form if you can. So for this farm, at least for their use, we kind of agreed that splitting it in fours was big enough. We saw some kind of variability, and we could kind of get data going this way within one treatment. So you may want to consider that too, or you might, if you have the land and the means, you can just do one treatment here, same treatment on that side, and then another treatment there, another treatment there, so you can kind of catch that variability. So for this one, they had 2 portions that were cropped with sun hemp, and one of them got 50% of the fertilizer rate, and at the ends there were no sun hemp grown, and one got the farmer practice, and then one was slightly reduced at 75%. So when we harvested I think it was pak choy at the end of 21 days after harvest, or 40 days after applying that sun hemp, we found that there weren't any significant yield differences in yield. So even like the sun hemp, but we reduced the fertilizer by half, gave the same yield as their normal farmer practice of just fertilizing with ammonium sulfate. So it showed that if you do incorporate sun hemp, you can, at least for this farmer, they could reduce their fertilizer rate by half, so saving them money, protecting the environment, not having any excess nitrogen in the soil that may leach or may go into the gaseous state. And here you can also see kind of the amounts of nitrogen that were added from the sun hemp, approximated, as well as how much were added from the fertilizer. So you can see that about that 100 pounds of nitrogen per acre is kind of what their field needs based on their cropping system. On that yield graph, there was a question mark because if you do statistical analyses, if the error bars, the variability bars, they don't overlap, if they're that much different, then you should see some kind of significant difference. So it didn't come out for the test I ran, so I may need to do it again. But so that's why it might be hinted at that if you do sun hemp, at least for this kind of farming system, that you may need to still add some kind of extra fertilizer in addition to the cover crop. Because if you just do the sun hemp by itself, by not fertilizing, you may reduce your yields depending how fertile your system is. But looking at the soil nitrate levels, that will do a soil nitrate test on there, you can see in that the graph with the different colored lines that for at least the farmer practice, 75% farmer practice, and that half farmer practice with sun hemp, the soil nitrogen levels were kind of right where we recommend for most vegetable crops. The sun hemp by itself was a little bit lower, so that's why I suspect that there may have been a somewhat significant difference on just the sun hemp without a fertilizer. So just in summary, this is just showing that if you do incorporate cover crops, in this particular case with sun hemp, that you may be able to reduce your fertilizer practice if you're just doing straight fertilizer right now. So it does have biological benefits through, like what Kunhu is saying, controlling different kind of pests and diseases in the soil, but can also have nutritional fertility benefits also. So that's short and sweet. If you do want to do a trial in your own farm, like I said, even if you just test sun hemp with a little bit of fertilizer versus your regular practice, you can try in a certain section of a field, say we do it in this strip, you can try maybe write numbers in a hat and draw them out of the hat to say number 1 is going to be this treatment, number 2 is this treatment, and then you just repeat that down the line, so that way you can kind of get some randomization, and that way you can try it maybe in 3 different sections of your field to see that if it works here but it doesn't work there, then maybe there's something else happening in the field that's affecting your results. Okay, so you want to try to catch that randomness and variability. But yeah.
So when you did your quads here, you separated it into 4. You did the same type of practice a few times in the field to account for variability. So the fertilizer, the farmer practice of the fertilizer was done in a few spots on the field.
Yeah, so that's the tricky part, because as a farmer, it takes time and effort to be able to apply fertilizer differently here, grow cover crop here, and grow it there. So for Christian was part of it. We kind of agreed on a set length. It wasn't that wide. We divided the field into 4s, this going from here to the edge of the field, but then we made sure that the width was kind of wide so that we could get some kind of replication this way across the field. So you want to, if you can't do your treatments, split it up here, there, and all over the place. If you can just try like a big enough area, then that might help capture some more information when you're taking any kind of data. But it's best if you can kind of split it up as possible. But whatever is feasible for your farm and your workload.
So for that full crop, did you use like tape or some kind of flags to section those off, and did you label the treatments? That was just like a little bit of
so labeling is important when trialing. So if you can, maybe short on time, I don't know if I can drag it out here, but you can use a tape measure like this, and whatever the stretch of field that you want to incorporate a trowel in, you can just start on one edge of the field and walk out that way, and whatever it comes out, you divide it, just simple math that way, and then just simple flags to label your different treatments. So whether it's the same color flag and you write on top of it, or if you have multicolored flags, one representing a different treatment, then you can try that route also. And then just make sure you take notes in a notebook or on your phone so you don't lose track of data. So it's pretty just takes labeling, simple design, and even the setup can be simple. It's all up to your imagination of how what kind of treatments you come up with. So you can do this with fertilizer, you can do this with different controls for different diseases, you can do this with variety trials if you have different varieties of seeds too. this is all kind of general trial development and design farms, that you got to keep certain things constant, or like a control where you don't vary it. So if you do a trial of different cover crops and fertilizer this way, it's good to make sure that at least the crop that you're growing or going to measure, that's the same across the different treatments. So you don't want to plant carrots in one treatment and the other one you plant lettuce, then you can't really compare it. So there's certain things you want to keep constant when you do these trials, even amongst different sites and farmers. It's good if you can get maybe a group of farmers in Waianae doing different things because it's a similar climate with the same crop. But then if you try to compare it with a farm in Big Island or Maui, that's where you might have you
So
can't
many
really compare. Yeah,
variables,
you might
yeah.
have more variables that complicate the data. So